Okay. All right. So it is our third class on Perek Dalet. So we started this Perek 3 classes ago, but because it is a very long Perek and has a lot of different events, there's a lot of events that happen in it. So it took longer than usual. It took longer than usual to finish it. And it's because also it's very interesting. I'm looking at where we stop. And yes, we saw that Shaul has a war against the Pelishtim, and Jonathan was the one who instigated the war, and he's the one who instigated the victory also. And we are at a point where Shaul has said, whoever he wants to convince the people to continue fighting. Mm-hmm. So he said, nobody's allowed to eat until we finish the war. So he said, nobody's allowed to eat today. The person who eats will be cursed. And when he made that curse, Jonathan was not with Shaul. He was in a different battalion. And Jonathan ended up eating honey from the ground. There was a valley with honey that was flowing. There was a lot of honey on the ground. And he dipped his staff into the honey and ate it. And everybody told him, Jonathan, your father said that we shouldn't eat today. And he said, well, number one, I didn't know. And number two, I think it's not a very smart idea to tell us that we shouldn't eat because, look, I just ate a little bit and I feel so much better. And we would have been so much more victorious if everybody was allowed to eat. And towards the end of the day, everybody is very tired. So we are at the point where we are at the end of the day and everybody is tired. And we are Pasuk Lamed Alef. 31. You with me?
Yeah.
All right. So Vayakuba Yamaru Pelishtim Minichmash Ayalona. So on that day they hit the Pelishtim from Nichmash to Ayalon. Vayafa Meod, and the people were very tired. So now the day Bayamahu, on that day they hit the Pelishtim. We understand that now the day is almost over because it was on that day and that day is now finished. And now let's see what happens. So another day is finished, and technically, when there is a custom of fasting, fasting is during the day, not during the night. So now that the day is finished, the fasting should be over. So we'll see what will happen. So what will happen is that the people are very tired. I'll give you an overview, and then we're going to see it inside. So what will happen is that the people are very tired, and they're starving. They're after a full day of fighting. And war and battle, it's very difficult. So they say, you know what, we're done. So the same way after Yom Kippur, everybody runs to the buffet to start eating. They're running to the cattle to start shechting the animals, to start having a meal. So everybody goes and takes their own animal to shecht and to eat. And what happens that in their haste, they are making a few mistakes. There are different opinions of what the mistakes are, but there's a report that goes to Shaul that says the people are eating blood. And we know that in Judaism we're not allowed to eat blood. So why do they say people are eating blood? There are a few reasons. Number one of the mistakes are possibly that the animals were shechted on the ground. So when the animal would die, it's a little gory.
It's fine.
That part afterwards it gets gory in a different way. So there would be there are a few options. Number one is that when they did the shchita, because the animals were they did the shchita to the animals on the ground, so the blood could not evacuate from the body completely. And we know that there is a whole process of how to eliminate the blood from the meat, and they didn't do that properly. So they were still
tired
because they were rushing to eat.
Oh,
so there was a possibility that there was still blood inside. There was still blood in the meat that they were eating. That's number one. Number two, the Bnei Israel said, we're not going to just have meat just like that. We after a full day of war, a full day of victory. We want to thank Hashem for the miracle that He did for us. So we're going to make a korban out of our meat. and we're going to eat the meat of a korban. Is as if today you would say, I'm going to make a Seudas mitzvah. I'm going to make it like that my meal is not going to be just a meal, it's going to be a mitzvah. So you're going to say, for example, someone is going to make a siyum for a masechta, or I'm going to eat at a bris milah, and I'm not going to have my meal at home. I'm going to go eat at a bris milah. That's a Seudas mitzvah to eat there, or something like that. So they said we're going to make our meal of tonight special. We're going to make a korban out of our meat. And how do you do that? That because the Mishkan was destroyed, they were allowed to bring korbanot anywhere. They would just build a small mizbeach that was called a bama, and they would be able to make their korban. But in the korbanot, there are halachas, and the halacha of the korban that the regular people can eat, because they're korbanot that only the kohanim can eat. They're the korbanot that are burnt completely on the mizbeach, which would serve no purpose because they actually wanted to eat. Mm-hmm. And there are korbanot that are called korban shlamim, that there's a part for the kohen and a part for the person who brings the korban, and a part that is burned on the mizbeach. But the blood of the korban needs to be sprinkled on the mizbeach, and only after the blood has been sprinkled on the mizbeach can you eat the meat. And this is a very important step. For spiritual reasons, it's a very important step. And what happened is that the people, because they were rushing, they ate before they sprinkled the blood. So that's considered a sin. Another possible sin that they made when they were eating that meal is that there's a halacha that you cannot do the shrita on a parent animal and their child. So you need to make sure that if you shecht an animal, the child of that animal, the baby of that animal, or if it's a baby animal, like let's say a calf, that its mother is not being shechted on the same day. But they were not careful about that on that day. So either way, there is that report that comes to Shaul that says people are eating blood. So Shaul is panicking, like, why would you do something like that? That's really terrible. So he says, let it be known in the nation that no one is allowed to do their own shrita in their own place. Everybody's going to do the shrita of their meat in a centralized place. He said, bring a big stone, and we're going to do shrita on a big stone. What is the purpose of the big stone? Number one, is going to serve as a mizbeach, as a bama, as a temporary mizbeach. And number two, because it's going to be elevated, the blood is going to be able to drip properly. So it's like if you would put the meat on a grill, or on a tray. On a tray, everything sits. On a grill, it will be able to drip. So, and he said, this way, I'm going to supervise everything that's going on, and I will be able to make sure that nobody is doing any mistake. We're going to go see more into detail in the words of the pasuk. It's really nice. And that's what they do. And Shaul then builds another mizbeach for Hashem, not for korbanos purposes, just for Hashem, to show Hashem that he's thankful for what he did for them. So now let's see inside the psukim, and then we'll move on. So, vaya'at ha'am el hashalal, and the people rushed to the loot. Vayikchu tzon u'bakar, and they took cattle and flock. Uvnei bakar, and the baby cattle. So from here we have the assumption that maybe they killed on the same day the parent and the baby. Vayishachatu arza, and they did the shrita on the floor. Vayochal ha'am, and the nation ate al adam, on the blood. So here we see, because they did the shrita on the floor, they ate on the blood. So it's as you saw, it's like quite detailed into the shrita process, but it was clearly forbidden. And the people told Shaul lemor, saying, the people are sinning to Hashem, by eating on the blood. And Shaul said, Begadetem, you betrayed. Who did they betray? Why does he tell them you betrayed? Like, did they make a commitment to something that they're betraying now? So there's a very interesting commentary that says that Bnei Israel are betraying the souls that that live inside the animals that are slaughtered, because every animal has a soul that needs to be elevated through proper shechita, and because they didn't do the shechita properly, the souls of those animals couldn't be elevated properly. So he says you're betraying those souls that are waiting to be elevated by not doing the shechita properly. So he said, what is the solution? Golu elai, roll over to me, hayom, today, even gedola, a big stone. Lamed Dalet, vayomer Shaul, and Shaul said, putzu. Putzu is spread around. It's like in the word lichsheyafutzu meinotecha chutza.
Yeah.
So putzu spread ba'am in the nation, ve'amartem lahem, and tell them, hagishu elai ish shoro ve'ish seehu. Every man should bring to me his ox and his sheep. U'shechatetem bazeh, and you will do the shechita with this. So the word bazeh is very interesting, and the Chachamim say, oh, you see the word bazeh? He says you should do the shechita bazeh. Bazeh has the gematria of 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 5 is 14. And 14 is the amount of tefachim, of inches, or of tefachim that the knife for the shechita needs to have. And we learn the length of the knife, of the shechita. We learn it from that sentence that Shaul is saying. So he says, you will shecht with this knife that I'm giving you. That should be that special length. And we see that here, Shaul wants to make sure that he will be able to check properly before the shechita is done, that the knives that are being used will be fit for shechita. So from here, there is the custom until not the custom, the halacha until today, that before a shechet shechs the animal, there is someone that needs to come and check the knife. It's not done today. Ve'achaltem, and then you will eat. When you will eat, ve'lo techetau laHashem, you will not sin to Hashem. Le'echol et adam, by eating the blood. So this is what you should do. If you don't want to sin to Hashem by eating blood, you should do the shechita with this knife. And this way you will be spared from sinning. So will the people actually follow his instructions? Absolutely. Vayagishu kol ha'am, and the people brought ish shoro beyado, each one his ox in his hand, halayla, on that night, veishchatu sham, and they did the shechita there. So why is it important to know that it's the night? It's to show that the oath of not eating was over. So here we see that it is the night.
So they were all using different knives, and he's like, no, we're going to use this knife.
Yeah. So even if you use, even if you do use your own knife, you need to make sure that it is exactly like mine, which is proper for shechita. But according to some opinion, they used Shaul's knife because they did not have weapons. We saw at the beginning of the Perek that the Bnei Israel did not have any weapons because the Pelishtim forbade them to own any weapons. So they went to war with like random objects. And because there was a censorship on owning weapons.
Wow.
So he was the only one, him and Jonathan were the only ones to have actually, to have a knife.
So like, weren't there like hundreds of people?
Yeah.
So they were all sharing one knife?
Apparently. Yeah. But also like you have to think not one person eats one animal.
Right. Yeah.
So like they would share. But yeah, it was still a lot of people. And that's why, because they were rushing to do it quickly because everybody wanted to eat. So they were rushing to do everything quickly. So they were not doing it properly. Shaul said, take your time, do things well. So then Vayiven Shaul Mizbeach LaHashem, and Shaul built a Mizbeach for Hashem. Oto hechel livnot Mizbeach. Oto hechel livnot Mizbeach LaHashem. He has just built his first Mizbeach for Hashem. So this is the first Mizbeach that Shaul will build in honor of Hashem, since he's been a king. And now everybody ate, everybody is rested. They took their time to rest from the war from the day. So what are they going to do now? Are they going to sleep? Pasuk Lamed Vav, Shaul has an idea. He says, today we had such a Yeshua. We had such a massive help from Hashem. We saw there was a pasuk before that said, Vayosha Hashem bayom hahu. Hashem saved on that day, which is the same pasuk that we used to describe how Hashem saved Bnei Israel from Mitzrayim by the Red Sea. So the same pasuk that we used to describe how Hashem saved Bnei Israel by the Red Sea, we use it here also. So there was a massive miracle that happened on that day. So Shaul doesn't want to miss the opportunity of that special day that Hashem is giving them so much kindness. So he says like this, Vayomer Shaul, Nirda achare Pelishtim, let's go down after the Pelishtim. Laila, tonight, v'navoza bahem, and we'll, how does it translate it by you? We'll loot them? Is that a verb?
We will not leave a single survivor.
No, before that.
Let's go down after the Pelishtim tonight.
Yeah.
We will not leave a single
Oh,
survivor.
that's so funny. And then
And they said, do whatever you
no,
think
okay,
to
so
do.
it's skipping completely that part. That's so interesting. So Venavoza Behem is we will ransack them
Mm.
and we'll take a lot of things from them. So, and then afterward, Behem ad ora boker until the morning, velo nasher behem ish, and we will not leave any man alive.
It's crazy you just skipped it.
So it's funny. So my students tell me sometimes, Mara, why do I need to know the translation? I can just read the translation in English. I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to ever know if they made a mistake or not.
Yeah.
You're going to have to rely on other people who have translated. In French, we have a saying that says, translation equals treason. Because naturally, when you translate something, you betray it in a way.
Right.
Because you want to adapt it to whatever agenda you have when you translate. So whatever. It's not like I'm sure it's not done in a mean way. It's just there was so either way, he said
they just fought the Philistines.
yes.
And now they're gonna finish.
Right. So they started doing the war, they were winning the war, and the Philistines were running away, and then everybody stopped. They said, you know what, it's the night, we're done. We don't want to. So Shaul is not fighting Ben Israel at night. He's not telling them, no, you have to stop eating now, we have to continue. He said, you know what, I understand. We've been fighting the whole day. Let's take the time now to eat, and then afterwards we'll go again. But it's interesting. He tells them, we're going to ransack them, and then we'll kill them. Usually it goes the other way around. First you kill the enemy, and then you take whatever they have. Why does he say the opposite? Why does he tell them what to do in the opposite order? Because he wanted to motivate them with the reward. What is the reward of the war? Is that you can take your enemy's property. So he tells them, let's go. We're going to take everything they have. You will see it's going to be great. And we'll kill them all. Like the important part is that they have to finish them off so that they will not fight against them again. But he motivates them by telling them, there's going to be so much for you to take home. So how did the Israel respond? And they said, Kol atov beinecha aseh. Everything that is good in your eyes, do. Meaning we'll follow you in whatever you decide, not just, okay, you do your thing and we do our thing. Another Kohen interfers. And said, Vayomer Kohen, and the Kohen that was with them said, Nikreva halom el Elokim. We should bring it up to Hashem. So here he's saying we should ask in the Choshen Mishpat, in the Urim Vetumim, we should ask Hashem if we should go to war. We shouldn't take the decision of going to war lightly and just like, oh, I think it's a great idea. We need to ask Hashem if we have Hashem's permission. Now it's very interesting because beforehand, like at the beginning of towards the beginning of the Perek, we have Shaul that is about to go fight the Philistine, and he's about to ask the Kohen, he's about to ask the Urim Vetumim if he should go fight. And then he says to the Kohen, I'm not going to ask, I'm just going to go. Why? Because he thought that the fight was already starting. The fight had already started and it was successful. So he said, there's no reason to ask. I see in front of my eyes that this is what I should do. And here the Kohen himself tells him, wait 1 second. Before we didn't ask, we did have a success, but we didn't ask. Now you want to go again. It's another operation. You should, now is really a good time to ask. There is a Netflix series, I think it's called The Crown.
I've heard of it.
So it follows Queen Elizabeth from the beginning of her monarchy, and there's a character in that series. I don't remember what's the title that he has, but he's like her personal secretary, and he knows all the protocols by heart. So Queen Elizabeth, she's a new queen, and she doesn't always know what she's supposed to do, and he stands there and he tells her, no, this is what you should do. Everything will go in that order. This is how it will proceed. Like he knows, like that's his job to know the protocols. So here, the Kohen Lehavitil, it sounds like he's the one who tells Shaul. The protocol says that now you should be asking into the Revitumim. So he's telling him, this is what the king should be doing now. Yeah. So, Vayomer Shaul, Goshu Alom, bring it close. Kol pinot ha'am. So he says to the people, to all the people, no, sorry, I skipped. Vayishal Shaul be'Elokim. And Shaul asked Hashem, meaning he asked in the Urim Vetumim. You're familiar with the Urim Vetumim?
Oh, the stones?
Yeah, the stone on the breastplate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So every stone belonged to a different Shevet,
right,
to a different tribe, and they each had letters. if you imagine, on the phone, on the phone keypad,
Yeah,
the
old
letters,
ABC is one.
right?
Yeah.
So there are letters that go according to each number, and
Right.
sometimes like you have call, like I don't know, 877 emergency, right? So they would have letters. Every stone would have letters, and letters would light up, and
Awesome.
then they would have to, like, the Kohen Gadol would have a nevuah, have to make up the word, and then that would be their answer. So now Shaul comes and asks the Kohen to ask in the Urim V'Tumim. So what is the question? Ha'ered achare Pelishtim. Should I go down after the Pelishtim? Hatitenet b'yam Yisrael. Will you give them in the hand of Am Yisrael? So now they should have an answer, yes or no. V'lo anahu Hashem b'yom ha'u. But Hashem did not answer him.
Is that common that they'd ask on the breastplate and there would be no answer?
So that's a very good question. It is common if the person asking doesn't deserve an answer.
Oh, wow.
So when Shaul sees that he doesn't get an answer, he knows there's an issue. And he says, you will see what he will say. He will know right away, he knows there's a problem. So he will gather the people and he will tell them, I know there's an issue. There's someone in the camp that sinned. And because of that sin, we're not worthy of receiving an answer from Hashem to know if we should fight or not. So we have to figure out who sinned.
Was it the Yonatan eating?
So, Vayomer Shaul, and so Shaul said, Go Shuhalom, Kol Pinot Ha'am. All the corners of the nation, please come forward. Udeu ureu, and you will know and you will see. Bame hayta hachatat chazot hayom. What was the sin that was done today? Ki chai Hashem, because by the life of Hashem, HaMoshiach Israel, who has saved Am Yisrael, ki im yeshno beyonatan beni, kimot yumat. Because if there is a sin, even in my son Yonatan, he will die. Ve'en oneu mikol ha'am, and no one from the nation answers him. No one comes forward.
He didn't know his son ate?
He didn't know he wasn't there.
How did Yonatan not know he wasn't supposed to eat?
So when Shaul made the oath that no one should eat, Yonatan was in a different battalion fighting against the Pelishtim. And Shaul made his oath at a different place. They didn't have WhatsApp.
Oh, that whole battalion ate? Yonatan's
No,
whole
only
battalion?
Yonatan, because Yonatan at the beginning of the war, Yonatan left off the army camp and he went with his weapon carrier. He went with his weapon carrier to fight against the Pelishtim. He said, well, we're waiting here. They're sitting there. We're sitting here. Everybody's scared and we're waiting to start the war and no one is starting the war. What are we doing? So he went with his weapon carrier, said, we're going to take care of business. He didn't say it exactly like that, but that's what happened. So they went and he said, let's see if we'll pass by the Pelishtim. If they tell us, stay here, don't move. We see that you're enemies. Don't move. We'll come to you. We'll know that they will take care of us really well. And meaning they will finish us off. They will fight us and we have no chance. But if they tell us, oh, Hebrews, what are you doing there? Come up here that we'll check you out. What do you need? What are you looking for? Then we know that Hashem has given them in our hand. Meaning we know that they're not careful in their safety protocols. We know that they are lazy about their fight. We know that they're not prepared for fighting. They're just like sitting around. So it will be easy to take them by surprise. But Yonatan uses much more lofty words, and he said it means that Hashem gave them into our hands because Hashem can make us win a war, no matter if we're 2 or if we're 20 or if 20,000. For Hashem, it doesn't matter. So he started off that fighting the Pelishtim, and on the other hand, Shaul is sitting with the people, and he sees that there is a fight going on in the Pelishtim camp, but he doesn't know that Yonatan is there. So he says, "Oh, there's a battle. The Pelishtim are running away, and Pelishtim are reacting to something. Let's go attack them. Let's go join into that war, that battle that's going on." And for motivating the troops, he says, no one should eat until we didn't finish. But Yonatan wasn't there. So Jonathan didn't know. Everybody else was there. Jonathan was separate with his weapon carrier. So when Jonathan arrives at that field with the honey, he doesn't know why people are not eating from it. He thinks maybe they are being afraid of the germs. I don't know. So he's the one, actually, some commentary says, why did he eat from it? He saw that no one was eating. Why did he not think that there was an issue?
Also, why did Hashem get mad if he knew he didn't know?
Right. So Shaul has no idea that Jonathan ate, but who does know?
All the troops.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
Shau's the only one. So it's like, imagine if you say something, well, if I don't know, if my kids are not sleeping by 8, I'm really the worst mother on the planet. But your kids are not sleeping, and I know that. So like, what are you? So I'm like, I'm not gonna even make a comment. I'm like, yeah.
Everyone just like staring back, like, I'm not gonna be the one to break the news.
Right?
Yeah.
So Bnei Israel are standing silently, and they're like, what are we gonna tell him? He's openly saying what exactly is going to happen. That Jonathan ate from we know that Jonathan ate from the honey. And he's saying, even if my son Jonathan sins, he will be punished by death. That's what he's going to have to do in the next 5 minutes once he's going to figure that out. He's digging his own grave, literally speaking. He's digging his son's grave. You understand the drama?
Yeah.
All right. So, Pasuk Mem, Vayomer el Kol Yisrael. So he says to all Am Yisrael, Atem tihu le'ever echad, you will be on one side, ve'ani ve'Yonatan beni niye le'ever acher, le'ever echad. And me and Jonathan will be on the other side. Vayomru ha'am el Shaul, the people said to Shaul, Atov be'enecha aseh, whatever you want, we'll do. Vayomer Shaul el Hashem. And Shaul addressed the tefillah to Hashem, and he said, Elokei Israel, God of Israel, I'm asking you. He doesn't say I'm asking you, I am adding. Hava tamim, bring up the right person. So now what he's going to do is that they're going to do a lottery. You know the story of Yonah?
Yeah.
So in the story of Yonah, there's the boat is about to sink, and they decide to make a lottery to decide who, because of whom is the storm happening, and they draw the lot with the names of people. So here, that's what they're going to do. And Shaul takes 2 papers. On one paper, he writes Am Yisrael. On one paper, he writes Shaul and Jonathan. Yeah.
Right.
And he needs to choose one paper. So he says, Hashem, I hope that you make me choose the right paper, the paper that is about the person that the sin is about. And he chooses one paper, and he says Shaul and Jonathan. Yeah. Hava tamim, bring up the right one, bring up the innocent one, meaning the one that it applies to, not the innocent person, because we're looking for the guilty person, but make the judgment innocent, make the judgment just, fair. Vayilached Yonatan v'Shaul, and Yonatan and Shaul were chosen. Ve'am yatzau, and the people were spared. They left. That means that they were taken out of the deal. Vayomer Shaul. So Shaul said, Hapilu beini uven Yonatan. Beni. Make it fall between me and my son Yonatan. Says, maybe I sinned and I didn't realize that I sinned. So let's see, between me and Yonatan, who is going to be chosen? Ve'ilached Yonatan, and Yonatan was chosen. So imagine now the dismay.
He did papers again. He did have 2 papers, Am Yisrael and Yonatan
and Shaul.
And
now they do again.
And he did
just Shaul and Yonatan.
How do they write the names? They have papers.
So they didn't. So no, it's not necessarily on papers. Could be on stones. They are actually, when we were in Israel this summer, we saw little stones that were like stone coins type of thing, where there were names written. And we know that those are names that were written for lottery.
But how did they write it?
They engraved it in the stones.
Oh my gosh, cool.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they say, the story of Matzada?
Yeah.
So at the end, they had to decide who was going to start the killing.
Right. So they
did a lottery. And they found the coins. with the names.
Wow.
It's like so heartbreaking. So that's what they did. That's what they did in Matzada. What did they do exactly in the story of Shaul and Yonatan? They don't say exactly, but it's not necessarily on paper, that's for sure. So, Vayomer Shaul el Yonatan. So Shaul now, imagine the dismay of Shaul. So Shaul now says to Yonatan, Hagid Ali, tell me, Me'asita, what did you do? So Yonatan told him, Vayomer, and he said, Ta'om ta'amti, bikitze amate. I tasted with the extremity of my staff, asher biyadi, that was in my hand, me'at dvash, a little bit of honey. So we see how Yonatan is making sure to tell his father, like, what I did was really nothing. I tasted, so it's not like I ate a full meal. I just had a taste with the end of my stick, like nothing. Me'at dvash, a little bit of honey. And right away he says, Hineni amut, but I will die. Because you said that I will die. Can you imagine the moment?
I'm trying to skip ahead, like what happened?
Vayomer Shaul. So Shaul said, Vayaseh Elokim v'ko Yosif. This is what I will do by the name of Hashem. Ki mo tamut Yonatan. That you should die, Yonatan. Because I promised that the person who eats will be cursed. And by cursed, we mean he will die. Now, according to all commentators, there are a lot of ways out for Yonatan to defend himself and for Shaul to exempt Yonatan. So why was it that Shaul didn't think? Shaul was a great Talmid Chacham. It's not like he didn't know the ins and outs of the halacha.
Wait, so does he really die?
What?
Does he really die?
Let's see. So why does Shaul say right away, oh, you will die? Why doesn't he say, well, let's think of a way that we can spare you or anything? The reason is because Shaul doesn't want the people to think that because Yonatan is from his family, that he will spare him. That the law applies to everybody equally. That you don't have a treatment of favor because you're part of the governing people. So that is the message that he wants to give. But what is very interesting also is that in a previous Perek Yud Alef, chapter 11, we have another victory of Shaul. We have the first victory of Shaul. So here we're in chapter 14. In chapter 11, we have the first war that Shaul ever fought. And at the end of the war, so he wins the war, obviously. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, Shaul is the best, blah, blah, blah. And then some people are saying, you remember at the beginning when Shaul was just anointed, there were people who said, oh, this Shaul is going to do nothing for us. Where are they, those people? They should be killed because look at that king that we have now. So they were really rebelling against our king, and we have the most amazing king on earth. We should kill the people who were rebelling against the king. And Shaul says, on a day like today, that Hashem saved us, you want to kill people? Nobody should die on the day that Hashem sent us such a victory. But here, he doesn't say that. Here he says, no, Yonatan should die. He doesn't say, oh, on a day like today. So what is going to happen is that the people are going to vouch for Yonatan. So let's see what happens. And the people said, El Shaul, HaYonatan Yamut? Yonatan really will die? Asher asa Yeshua gedola azot beIsrael. He is the one who instigated the Yeshua, who started the salvation. Chalila, God forbid. Chai Hashem, by the life of Hashem, imipol misarat rosho arza. If one of his hair will fall on the ground. Ki Elokim asa hayom. Because it is with Hashem, everything that he did today. Everything that Yonatan did today was with the help of Hashem. So if Hashem helped him so much, for sure he's worthy. He doesn't deserve to die. That's what the people are saying to Shaul. But there's that curse. And today we don't understand the seriousness of an oath, but we know that there is before Rosh Hashanah, the men are saying Ataras Nedarim, the absolution of vows. It used to be that if you made a vow and you wanted to be exempt from your vow, you need to bring a korban. It's like a really serious thing. There is I listened to a course where the whole, like a full hour-long shiur on oaths and how important they are. And here there is something that needs to be done. Okay, we can say Jonathan needs to be exempted, but we need to do something about it. Vayiftu ha'am et Jonathan. The people redeemed Jonathan. So the people collectively, they brought a korban to redeem Jonathan, to make him exempt from that curse that Shaul made against him. Velo met, and he didn't die. That's strong, right? All right, tragedy averted. So what is very interesting, okay, well, I'm going to explain. Vayal Shaul, so what happens next? Vayal Shaul ma'achare Pelishtim, and Shaul went up from after the Pelishtim. So he started going to chase them. But the Pelishtim went back to their place. The Pelishtim went back home. They stopped the war. The Pelishtim went back to their territory.
Like they gave up? Or
They
just
gave
for
up the
till
war.
tomorrow?
They gave up the war. They said, we're not fighting anymore. We're going back home. We do a ceasefire. So the same way that today we have in Israel, you have the Hamas that will say, oh, we do a ceasefire. We stop sending rockets. Don't fight us anymore. And then Israel is like, oh, well, yeah, we can't fight you anymore. Because you offered a ceasefire, so we have to accept it. So here, the Palestinians said, no, we're going home.
Who started?
So Shaul
started the whole thing.
So here, it's interesting. Sorry, the Palestinians, we're presented with a new reality that is not detailed before in the Navi. The Palestinians were occupying Eretz Israel, but in a Pacific way, not in a Pacific way, in a way that was de facto. We are imposing our presence in Eretz Israel. We're not going to fight you. We don't need to fight you. We're going to scare you. And we're going to demand things from you. And you're going to have to listen to us. For example, we forbid you to have any weapons. Not only that, you're not even allowed to own a rake, because you could use a rake to fight, to attack someone. So if you ever need a rake, you need to come to us. It's like, if you have your weapons on consignment, you have to go, get it unlocked, use it, and then return it. So that's what they needed to do if they ever wanted to use any sharp tool. So they had control over the people. So Jonathan said, I have enough of this situation. He killed one of the high officials of the Pelishtim. So the Pelishtim said, you're killing our high officials. You think we're going to just stand by? You can't, you're provoking us. So obviously we have to fight back. So they gathered the army. So that's how it started. So anyways, what happens here is that at the beginning of the war of the Pelishtim, the previous war, we had that whole situation where Shaul did not wait for Shmuel to bring the korban. Were you there? Did you? So there was a situation where Shmuel said to Shaul, you will be in Gilgal, we'll bring a korban, I will bring the korban, and then I'll tell you what to do. You'll wait for me for 7 days. Shaul didn't wait, and he brought the korban himself, and Shmuel came right after and told him, what did you do? You brought the korban without me, bam, you lost the kingship. There was a very determining moment, very turning point moment in the history, and more personally in the history of Shaul. And Shmuel told him, your kingship will not continue. So here we see 3 ways in which Shaul does not act like a king in this Perek. Number 1, Shaul is not the one who starts the fight. He is not the one who starts the war. Jonathan starts the war. Number 2, when he asks Urim Vetumim, should I go to war? Hashem doesn't respond, because he's not officially the king anymore. Because Shmuel told him, you're not going to be king anymore. He continued acting as a king and serving as a king, but he didn't have the royalty on him. In a way, a part of the royalty had left him.
So
Hashem did not
the
answer him.
didn't answer him because someone sinned, but maybe Hashem just didn't answer him because he's not a king.
Because he's not a king. There are a lot of opinions that explain why did Hashem not answer. Part this, part that. Number 3, Hashem didn't want to give him the victory over the Pelishtim. Hashem didn't want him to say, oh, I won the war against the Pelishtim. So the whole war was started by Jonathan, won by Jonathan, and now that Shaul wants to continue fighting after the Pelishtim, Hashem says, you're going home. There's no one to fight anymore. And the reason being that Hashem wanted to remove that privilege from him. But it's not all rosy, because he's going to have other people that he will need to fight. Eretz Israel, just like today, Eretz Israel is surrounded by by Arab countries. It was surrounded by foreign enemy countries that would take any opportunity to come invade them, attack them, and everything. So what does Shaul do? Shaul lachad hamelucha. He established the kingship al Israel, on Am Israel, vayilachem saviv bechol oivav. And this is something that we often overlook, that we don't remember so much about Shaul. But here it tells us very explicitly that Shaul went and fought around Eretz Israel against all the enemies. Bemoav, Bivnei Ammon, Beedom, Bemalchet Tzova, Ubepelishtim. So he describes different nations that Shaul went and conquered and fought. Now, didn't necessarily conquer, meaning he didn't completely dominate them after the war, but he went and fought them. He made wars against them, and he made statements that we're a strong country. And wherever he turned, he would create riot, he would create damage, meaning he would really harm them. And he made a big army. And he hit Amalek. That is very interesting. And he saved Israel from their enemy, from their oppressors. It says that he hit Amalek. Now, we don't know because we didn't read it yet, but in the next Perek Tetvav, it starts with Shmuel coming to Shaul and telling him, you have to go erase Amalek. And you see that he already hit them. So here we're going to explain that Shaul went and fought against Amalek just to make sure that they know that he means business, that they shouldn't come and attack him. So he fought them as a warning, don't come to bother us. Not as oh, you are Amalek, we have a mitzvah to erase you. I'm going to kill you from first to last. So he hit them, but he didn't exterminate them. So just to make that clear, because otherwise it would be a contradiction with next Perek. And then we have the next psukim are a little bit a biography of Shaul. So let's see. Vayu b'nei Shaul. So we have the family tree of Shaul. Vayu b'nei Shaul, and the sons of Shaul were. He had 3 sons. Yonatan, Yishvi, Umalkishua. Veshem shte benotav, and he had 2 daughters. Shema bechira Mirav, Veshema ketana Michal. He had 2 daughters, Mirav and Michal, and 3 sons. He actually had a 4th son, but his 4th son is not mentioned here because the people that are mentioned here, the children that are mentioned here, are only the children who will not have any posterity. They will not have any part in the kingship after him. He is a 4th son that will rule after him, so he's not mentioned here. Veshem eshet Shaul, and Shaul has a wife, and her name is Achinoam bat Achimaatz. Veshem Sar Tzva'o, and the name of his general of army is Avner ben Ner, Dod Shaul. His name is Avner ben Ner. He's the uncle of Shaul. We met Avner the first time without a name, but we met him as the uncle of Shaul. He's the one who welcomed him back when he came back from looking for the donkeys. In the first paragraph, we met Shaul. When Shaul came home, his uncle was waiting for him at the house, and he told him, "Where did you go?" And Shaul didn't tell him that he went to see Shmuel, and that Shmuel told him that he was going to be king. But his uncle was asking him where he went, and that uncle became his general, Avner ben Ner. We're going to see him a lot in the future. The Kish Avi Shaul, and the father of Shaul, his name is Kish. The Ner Avi Avner ben Aviel. And Ner is the father of Avner, who is called also Avner ben Aviel. Aviel and Ner, they're the same person. He was called Ner because he was lighting up the path for people to go to shul. So they give him the nickname of Ner, which means a candle. And if you think that this is rosy and that's why we can go into his family life, no. Shaul, his entire life, he's going to fight against the Pelishtim. there was a heavy war between Shaul and the Pelishtim his entire life. That means that he didn't finish off the Pelishtim now. The Pelishtim went back home, but there's going to be like a guerrilla. I don't know how do we say it in English. There will be like mini attacks all the times, back and forth, the entire time of the kingship of Shaul. So the Pelishtim are a big enemy of the Bnei Israel. They don't always go openly at war. They don't go like super massive, all out wars. But there's always fights, and there's always tension, and there's always difficult things that happen. Like they send one battalion, or they send soldiers to one area. There's always something going on with the Pelishtim. We're going to see the Pelishtim again in the future. V'ra'a Shaul kol ish gibor. And whenever Shaul would see any man that was strong, v'chol ben chayil, and a man of value, v'yasfeu elav, he would gather him to him as part of his army. So it's very interesting that the Perek finishes on that, because we started in Perek Yud Gimel by saying that Shaul gathered an army that was not big. And we say, why was Shaul, it's in Perek Yud Gimel, the beginning of Perek Yud Gimel, I think. ויבחר לו שאול, פרק י"ג, פסוק ב', ויבחר לו שאול 3,000 מישראל. Shaul chose 3,000 people from Israel to be in his army. Why? He didn't want more. He said, anyways, my victory depends on Hashem. So that was at the beginning of the Perek. At the end, every person that he sees that would be valuable in an army, he takes him in his army. So we see that there is an involvement in Shaul's behavior. That at the beginning, he's completely trusting in Hashem. Whatever happens, happens. And I'm relying 100% on Hashem. And here he collects as big of an army as possible. And that's how we finish.
Well, he probably feels like that disconnect, that like Hashem's not answering him.
Yes, it is possible.
Did he, and who said that he wasn't, Shaul told him he wasn't going to be king.
Shmuel told him.
Yeah, sorry.
So Shmuel told him that Hashem now has rejected him.
Oh, so he does feel
He told him, they had a conversation about it. But it's as if I tell you, it's like you tell your kids, you know what, you didn't listen well, you didn't behave in school, or you didn't, I don't know, you didn't clean up when I asked you to, I don't know, whatever it is, you're going to have serious consequences. But you don't say what the consequence is going to be, and you continue your day as is. And then in the evening, you're going to say, you know what, you're going to bed 45 minutes earlier today. Like, yeah, but like, I didn't know what was going to be the consequence until it actually happens. Until you actually send me to bed early. I don't know what's going to happen to me. So here, Shmuel tells Shaul, you will not be king anymore, but he doesn't nominate another king. He doesn't tell him, go home, give me back the crown. He doesn't, like, he still expects him to lead the people into that war. So there is an in-between stage that Shaul is not sure, like, am I still the king or am I not? And we'll see in the next Perek, Shmuel comes to Shaul again with another mission that he needs to go fight Amalek. But if he's not the king, so then why are you asking him? So there is a disconnect, but on the other hand, Shaul is still serving as the king. So it's a little bit of a complicated position that Shaul is in. And the position is going to worsen after the war against Amalek, because Shaul will not listen to the instructions a second time. And then that will be the end of it. So it's gonna be going downward. From here, so we consider that Shaul's kingship is like a rainbow, like an arch. So it goes up, 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 and then it starts going down. So from here, it's already starting to go down. Wow. So that's the end for today.